Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from, well, a different space even from last time. Definitely not the Commander's Core studio, a place where I actually don't even have the camera set up here, so you're just going to hear my lovely voice and just imagine me in a room that does not look at all like my studio. Regardless, we're going to be talking about some spoilers on this episode, and we've got the Case of the Locked Hothouse to start us off. We've got a lot of great spoilers on this episode, including the last one, which I'm going to go into a bit more depth with because, oh my goodness, but a lot of good ones too. I mean, this one, an enchantment case, I really like the way these cases have worked out. 4 mana in total in green. You play to land on each of your turns, so there are other effects like this that are lower to the ground, obviously. That being said, this has a higher potential threshold than many of them. It says to solve, you control 7 or more lands. When you solve it by having 7 more lands, which is very easy to do, of course, especially when you can play additional lands on your turn, there you go. You may look at the top card of your library anytime you play lands and cast creature and enchantment spells at the top of your library. This is interesting in that it allows you to do all 3 of those, essentially. Usually it's one or the other, I guess. But yes, in this case, you can do one of 3 things, and hey, if you're running a creature-based strategy, awesome. You're going to be able to cast a lot of creatures off the top. Enchantments, yes. Or lands, or all 3. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be very few opportunities for you to actually miss off the top of your library with something like this. So, yeah, I could definitely see landfall decks enjoying this. Enchantment decks potentially enjoying this as well, or creature-based strategies enjoying this too. Regardless, again, you are in green, meaning that you have access to a ton of great land ramps. So, yeah, you're going to be able to solve this very easy, very quickly, and very effectively. Next up, we got Chalk Outline, yet another very cool enchantment. Thank you, MTG Goldfish, for the translated version of this one. Whenever one or more creature cards leave your graveyard, you get a 2/2 white and blue detect creature token, then investigate. This one is somewhat similar to ones we've seen in the past. Like, there's that one that makes bats. I think Desecrated Tomb, whatever it is. I think that's right. Makes 1/1 bats, I think, whenever a creature leaves your graveyard. This one, again, it's 1 or more, so do keep that in mind, obviously. So it's like, hey, I exile my graveyard. I've got 20 creatures in there. I get 20. No, you don't. 1 or more. So you need to make sure you're doing it 1 at a time. That being said, yeah, there's some pretty crazy things you can do with this, some pretty combo-y things that you can do with it too as well. And yeah, being able to investigate, giving you those clue tokens, that can definitely give you a lot of value throughout the game as well. Or, of course, you can utilize them in different ways. I mean, sacrifice them to a Quark Clan Ironworks, about to say Ashdod's Altar. That's not right. Basically, Ashdod's Altar, but for artifacts, a very, very cool effect. So, yes, being able to utilize this in different ways can definitely be good for different kinds of strategies. Again, Reanimator, ones that can control their graveyard, bringing things in and out, etc., etc. Next up, Fugitive Codebreaker. Really cool art on this one. 2/1 Goblin Rogue with Prowess and Haste for 2 mana. Disguise for 5 and a red, but you're probably never going to pay that. This cost reduced by 1 for each instant source card in your graveyard. So basically, if you've got, essentially 5 instant sources in your graveyard, congratulations, disguise cost of 1. When it's turned face up, just to discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. So this one's pretty interesting in that, obviously, by getting it out early, it can be effective. Again, haste, swing right away. Prowess, make it hit even harder. And of course, by casting more and more and more spells, I mean, I guess that's technically the opposite side, if you put it down as a disguise, then yes, you also have the ability to draw 3 cards by discarding your hand. If you don't have a hand, congratulations, it's draw 3. Or you might have some ways to play into discarding your hand, getting value out of that, drawing cards, getting even more value out of that, etc. So yeah, definitely a card to consider for decks that might be looking to like self-wheel essentially a good amount. There's other cards like Bedlam Reveler that does kind of the same thing essentially, where you're discarding your hand, drawing 3. So yeah, there are definitely ways to take advantage of getting things into your graveyard and then also, well, yeah, drawing some cards. Everyone loves drawing cards. Next up, we've got Repulsive Mutation, a very interesting brand new counterspell, instant for X, green and a blue. X counters on target creature control, then counter to 1 target spell this controller pays mana equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. So, very simple, very effective. This is, I mean, honestly, like a 2 mana counter spell in many situations. You don't need to put any into that X. I mean, if you got extra mana lying around, sure, do it. But essentially, usually you're going to have, a creature that has a great enough power to essentially your opponent can't pay that amount. So being able to just pay 2 mana to counter any spell, that is really, really good. That being said, it is also conditional in that it is obviously worse than Counterspell in that, hey, it is conditional because if you don't have any creatures in play, yeah, it's not going to do anything for you. So, yes, you do have a little bit of a risk to it, but also a good amount of potential with it because, again, its upside is even higher than something like a Counterspell because You can put, 5 mana into that, get 5 counters to a creature, make it even more massive again. You can use the combat trick, you can do a lot of things. So yeah, basically, and again, it says counter up to 1 spell, so you could just utilize this as just a counter dump on something again. Getting +1 counters on a creature at instant speed, that can be very, very valuable. And again, you don't have to counter a spell, so make sure you're keeping that in mind. Next up, Drag the Canal, a very interesting instant for just 2 mana in Dimir. Get a 2/2 white and blue attack creature token. If a creature died this turn, you gain 2 life, surveil 2, then investigate. A lot of value to be had there. It is conditional though. Again, it is conditional. Otherwise, you're just making a 2/2 detective for 2 mana instant speed, which, I mean, isn't the worst thing, but it's definitely not the best. That being said, again, if any creatures die, again, on anyone's turn, it's not a creature you control. So yeah, if you're basically just holding up 2 mana and waiting throughout the turns and hoping a creature dies on someone's turn, then yes, you can get a good amount of value out of this. Again, getting 2 life, yeah, nice. Surveil 2, that's pretty good. Being able to get things in your graveyard, be able to sift through the top of your library. Also investigating again, if you got a deck that can play well with clues, they can play well with artifacts, or just, yeah, utilizing it to draw cards, this can all be a good amount of value. So, yeah, I mean, if you've got a deck that maybe can incentivize creatures dying, yeah, that already, benefits from those, like aristocrat style, sacrificing creatures, whatever it is, or disincentivizing combat, can definitely more so assume that a creature's going to die, or one that just has a lot of removal spells or edict effects, etc., etc. Next up, Escape Tunnel. Okay, it finally happened. My goodness. This is, I'm going to throw this out right now. This is going to be the most popular card from this set by miles. By miles, this is going to be the most popular card, and it's a very simple card. A land that is a common that says tap, sacrifice its life for a base landing card from the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Does that sound familiar? It probably should, because you probably have at least one deck that has either Evolving Wilds or Terramorphic Expanse, both of which do this exact same thing, except this has extra text on it, and it's not just the flavor text. No self-respecting criminal has a basement with only 1 exit. Yeah, okay. Anyways, the other text on that really matters, though, is tap, sacrifice it, target your power 2 or less, can be blocked this turn. This is a strictly better version of, I think Eddie pointed out yesterday, that Evolving Wilds has 700,000 decks to its name on EA Trek. More than that. Terramorphic Expanse right around there as well. I think it's like 500 and something like that. They're the exact same card. So this card, again, is strictly better than some of the most played cards in Commander. And, I mean, yeah, there is no reason not to include this. If you are including Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, there's no reason to include this, well, above them or alongside of them. I mean, I'm going to be including it alongside of them because I love these, easy fetch lanes, essentially. But yeah, again, it is strictly better. Even if you have no creatures in your deck, no creatures at all that meet that requirement of power 2 or less, it does not matter. There are going to be opportunities where, say, someone makes you a token that you could potentially get through. Or even, again, it does not specify target creature you control. It does not say that, meaning that you can utilize it on an opponent's creature. Again, let's say that someone's really low on health and you've got another player you're working with. And you're like, okay, I could just get this creature through, we can take that other player out who's a huge threat. Cool, I'll sacrifice my escape tunnel, make your tiny creature unblockable, gets through that player, takes them out. So there's a lot of scenarios where something like this can be great. And of course, there's certain commanders out there that absolutely will love this card. Ones that want to get small creatures through for one reason or another. I mean, like Finn the Fangbearer deck, essentially, right? Death Touch with poison. Yeah, there are certain commanders out there like, auto-include? Yes, please, thank you. So yeah, not auto-include. There's no such thing as really auto-include in my opinion. But still, a very, very good card. Going to see a ton of play. Moving on, Doppelgang. What we're really here for is sorcery for XXX green blue. For each up to X target permanents, create X tokens that are copies of that permanent. Oh my goodness. Correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong on this, and I probably should look this up ahead of time, but is this the second time, I think Crackle of Power is the other one, that we've ever seen triple X in a mana cost? Absolutely crazy. I mean, this effect is absurd. Again, X target permanents, X tokens are copies of that permanent. This is incredibly good. I mean, okay, at a base level, not very good. If you're just spending 5 mana in total, again, X equals 1, you get 1 copy of 1 permanent, and that is really not good. I mean, there are plenty of other effects. I mean, there's a lot of other, like, creature copying. I guess there aren't too many effects that copy, like, any kind of a permanent, but usually, like Mythos of Iluna, you'd get it for 4 mana, essentially. But with this, yeah, it's worse at 5. That being said, you go up to 8, that is 2 times 2. You are getting 4 things in total, 2 copies of 2 permanents. You go up to 11, that is 3 times 3, 9. You go up to 14, 4 times 4, 16. yeah, obviously, the higher this goes, the better it gets. And of course, this has even more potential in certain decks that might be built around it, because this is one of those types of cards, we'll talk about one here in a bit, that I already have a deck built around, where it's like, yeah, I could build an entire deck around this effect, and it could be quite crazy, quite effective, and quite amazing. Absolutely love this design. So yeah, a big mana deck, this could be a great card for it. A lot of high value. Again, it's got a little bit of flexibility to it, where like earlier in the game, it's like, okay, I only have 5 mana. If I desperately need to copy something, I can. I only have 8 mana. Okay, if I need to copy something, I can still get a good amount of value for it. Or again, if I've got 14 plus mana, yeah, this is game-ending, game-winning material. My goodness, absolutely love this kind of a card. I've got a couple of decks that could utilize this, so let's see if it's going to be budget friendly. I really hope so. Regardless, let's talk about some commanders that might want to consider this one. Okay, so first up, and thank you, Eddie, for pointing out this one, but also blame Eddie in the comments below for players playing this against you. Adrix and have Twin Casters. Yeah, this is going to be a really good one for Doppelgang, which I should mention is a very good name for that card. A 2/2 Merfolk Wizard with Ward too, because Wizards, once they invented Ward, they're like, throw it on everything! Anyways, if one or more tokens will be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. Pretty apparent and pretty obvious as to why this one is super good, because, hey, here's the thing. You're going to be making tokens, and now you're making twice as many. Pretty simple, pretty easy to see why that's crazy good, and basically makes your value be twice as much. So, yeah, have fun with that. And, of course, there's plenty of ways to make big mana in this kind of a deck as well. Next up, speaking of big mana, though, Krufix God of Horizons. Yeah, being in Simic, you've got access to a lot of commanders. They're like, hey, you like lands? You like mana? Krufix is one of those. Indestructible 4/7, so it's going to stick around for quite a bit. As long as your devotion to green and blue is less than 7 to a creature, that's fine. You have no maximum hand size. That's lovely, especially when you're going to be doing some crazy things. And even crazier is if unused mana to be empty for you in a pool, then mana becomes colorless instead. So essentially, it's like a mana bank for you. It's like an indestructible mana bank for you. So just tap all your lands, let it float there, and it will stay as colorless mana. And it's fine that it's colorless again, because you're gonna have a spell like Doppelgang where you're like, oh, cool, just utilize this 30 mana that I have lying around to cast this giant spell. I mean, I know it would be, what, 32 would be the amount that you would need, right? Because you need the green and the blue or whatever for times 10. But yeah, you can very easily do some absolutely crazy things with this one. And your opponent's, yeah, might not be able to deal with that pretty easily. Also, I should mention that you are in green, so you've got access to some pretty good populate effects as well. So make sure you're keeping that in mind when you are making token copies of really good creatures out there. And you're also getting really good ETBs, I'm sure, as well, and doing crazy things. Regardless, moving on. Omnath Locus of All, a Phyrexian mana bank of some. If you lose unspent mana, that mana comes black instead. So, yeah, I mean, basically the exact same thing as Krufix, but with that slight adjustment. Also, you get free cards all the time in your library. You potentially get free mana as well. This one in play, it's not indestructible, but it does give you access to 5 colors, which is the best of the color combinations, in my opinion. In my humble opinion, I love 5 color. Did you know that? Regardless, being able to, again, just ramp out a ton. Just drop a ton of mana into this and then say, hey, everyone, it's Doppelgang time. And that's going to be an annoying phrase, just yelling that over and over again throughout the games that you play with your friends. Next up, Ramos Dragon Engine, one of the OG big mana commanders, I would say. A 4/4 Ledger Artifact creature drawing with flying that costs 6 mana. Whenever you cast a spell, you get a counter on it for each of those colors. Remove 5 of those counters, and you get double Wooburg. So already you're at 10 mana right there. I mean, again, with this card, the ones that you want to hit are, what, 11, 14, 17. You can pretty easily get to those once you have mana stored up on this, essentially, or should I say counters stored up for that mana up on this. So you can pretty easily, again, get to a game-winning potential proposition. So yeah, there you go. Next up, though, Villainous Wall. This is the card that I kind of alluded to earlier, that this kind of a new card like Doppelgang reminds me of. It is like itself just a kind of card that you build an entire deck around. That you're just like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to say my entire deck's just all about this card. My entire one deck that I'll talk about here in a little bit is built around Villainous Wealth. A crazy good effect, another giant X spell essentially. Target opponent exiles the top X card to the library. Cast any of spells convert mana cost X less from one of them paying their mana cost. And here's the thing. When we get these new cards like this one, like Doppelgang, and it's within this same color combination, well, if you already have a Villainous Wealth deck, maybe find a spot for this brand new Doppelgang card, potentially. Yeah, you just say like, okay, I'll switch out this one other card. Don't just be like, oh, a land, I'll take out a land. Yeah, that's not like how we replace things, everyone, okay? You can't always just keep taking out a land, or you'll end up with like 20 lands. Regardless, being able to say, now I've got a secondary win condition in this deck potentially, or a third if you already have another one, and be able to say, okay, cool, I can either Villainous Wealth my opponents for funsies, or I can Doppelgang things for funsies. So yeah, you already have ways to make an absurd amount of mana, obviously, do some crazy things. I mean, mine specifically is a Jodah Archmage Eternal, because again, hey, I like 5 color. Jodah is going to help you cast spells that are really expensive, because you can pay Wooburg rather than pay the mana cost for those spells. Obviously, this does not work for, well, X spells, and that's kind of, I mean, I guess if someone hasn't seen the episode around my Jodah deck, then they might not know that my Jodah deck is specifically built around Villainous Wealth and just getting things out, and then ramping and ramping and ramping, and then being able to, well, do other things with that giant spell I'm about to cast, because they might not expect that, again, Jodah, who helps you save mana on big spells, like, oh, well, they're just going to cast an X spell, which Jodah will not help with at all. Because then what we're going to do is we're going to cast spells like Increasing Vengeance, which copies spells, or you flashback to copy spell twice, or like Repeated Reverberation, which helps you copy the next spell you cast twice. And then all of a sudden, you are taking even more advantage out of your X spell again. Yeah, I don't want to go through the math, and I usually don't actually try to even calculate what the most valuable way to go about it is. I'm just like, okay, I've got like 3 copy effects in my hand, a Swarm Intelligence in play, which is going to copy it again. How much do I put into the X versus how many copy spells do I cast? Don't know, don't care, just do, right? Just do and assume it's gonna work out. And again, with Doppelgang, yeah, being able to, again, like let's say, cast it for 11 and copy it once, that doubles up its value to an absurd amount for you. So have fun with something like that. And again, you choose new targets for the copy, so you're like, okay, those permanents sound fun too, so let's just do those. Yeah, you can do some pretty crazy things with this new type of card, and I'm excited to see where players take it. But now this episode is coming to a close. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on all these cards, especially Doppelgang. I mean, this card, I think, again, has the potential to be one of those cards that entire decks are built around. Is like that Villainous Wealth type style of, yeah, it's kind of crazy and out there and requires a good amount of setup to actually get there. But again, if you can cast this for like, I don't know, 20 plus mana, good luck to anyone stopping you, because you're going to have an absurd amount of permanents. Even if you, again, say like just for, what is it, like 20 mana, that would be what, X equals 6? Even if you like copy lands, if you're like, okay, like I have 6 lands out here, I copy those, you're getting what, 36 lands? Is that right? Math below, like 6 times 6, that'd be 36, right? Even if you're just doing that, you're then going, oh, okay, now I've got 36 lands. Then you're probably a degenerate Simic player or a degenerate 5-color player like myself, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna regrowth my Doppelgang, and then I'm gonna recast it. Yeah, absolutely crazy things can happen with this one. I mean, probably infinite things too, obviously, because again, those permanents aren't coming into play tapped as well. So keep that in mind again when it comes to lands. Absolutely crazy. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this one. And of course, well, make sure you're staying tuned to this channel for more exciting quick takes and spoilers. And thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.